In the crowded world of Hollywood, where faces often blur into sameness and stories are recycled, one woman dared to be unapologetically herself, bold, funny, intelligent, and real. Her name is Mindy Kaling, and her story is one of relentless ambition, endless creativity, and the quiet power of believing in your own voice when no one else will. Born as Vera Mindy Kaling on June 24, 1979, in Cambridge, Massachusetts, to Indian immigrant parents, her life was never meant to follow a conventional script. Her father was an architect, her mother a doctor, both dreamers who had crossed oceans for opportunity. They taught her discipline, resilience, and the unspoken truth that to succeed in a new world, you must work twice as hard to be seen once. From an early age, Mindy wasn't just bright, she was observant. While other kids played, she watched. She listened. She noticed the rhythms of conversation, the awkward silences, the punchlines that made people laugh, and the invisible emotions that lingered after. Humor, to her, wasn't just entertainment. It was a way to understand people, to connect, to belong. In a world where she didn't always see herself represented, laughter became her superpower. When she attended Dartmouth College, Mindy's creativity exploded. She became a member of the Dog Day Players, the college's improv comedy group, and wrote for the campus humor magazine, the Dartmouth Jack-o'-lantern. But her real magic was behind the scenes, creating, writing, imagining characters that leapt off the page. She co-created a play called Matt and Ben, a hilarious parody imagining how Matt Damon and Ben Affleck wrote Good Will Hunting. It was smart, original, and fearless, just like her. The play became a surprise sensation at the New York International Fringe Festival, winning the Best Play award. Suddenly, Mindy was no longer a quiet observer. She was a writer to watch. Hollywood took notice, but not without skepticism. The entertainment industry, dominated by a narrow definition of beauty and success, didn't know what to make of an Indian-American woman who wasn't trying to fit in, she was trying to stand out. But Mindy had already decided she wasn't going to wait for anyone's approval. She wrote, she acted, and she created opportunities when none existed. Her boldness paid off when she was hired as a writer for NBC's The Office, one of the most iconic comedies of its generation. At just 24, she was the only woman of color in the writer's room. Many would have felt intimidated, but not Mindy. She turned every doubt into fuel. On The Office, she wrote some of the show's most memorable episodes, including the Dundies and Niagara. Her character, Kelly Kapoor, became a fan favorite, fast-talking, hilarious, and delightfully self-absorbed. But what most people didn't see was the grind behind the glamour. Mindy worked tirelessly, often late into the night, crafting jokes, fine-tuning dialogue, and learning how to blend heart and humor in ways that made people care. She wasn't just a writer, she was learning to be a leader. The success of The Office gave her credibility, but more importantly, it gave her confidence. She realized she didn't want to be remembered only as a talented writer or funny actress. She wanted to create worlds. She wanted to tell stories where women looked like her, spoke like her, dreamed like her. And so, with courage that could fill a stadium, she took a leap that would change television forever. She created the Mindy Project. At first, no one believed it would work. A romantic comedy starring a South Asian woman as the lead. Networks hesitated. Critics doubted. Executives said audiences wouldn't relate. But Mindy smiled through it all, holding on to one truth. People don't connect with skin color, they connect with human stories. When the Mindy Project finally premiered, it shattered expectations. The world saw a new kind of leading lady, confident, messy, smart, vulnerable, and funny. For the first time, millions of young women saw themselves represented on screen, not as side characters, but as the heroes of their own lives. Mindy didn't just star in the show. She wrote, directed, and produced it. She controlled her narrative. She hired diverse teams. She made sure her show reflected the real world, one full of color, complexity, and compassion. Behind her effortless charm was a mind that never stopped creating. And when the show faced cancellation, she didn't quit. She fought back. She moved it to Hulu, making history as one of the first creators to successfully transition a network sitcom to streaming. It wasn't just a victory for her, it was a victory for every underdog who had ever been told no. But Mindy's story didn't stop there. She went on to produce, write, and star in projects that pushed boundaries even further. Late Night, Never Have I Ever, The Sex Lives of College Girls, each one a love letter to individuality. culture, and ambition. She became a voice for inclusion, not through loud speeches, but through quiet, consistent excellence. Her presence opened doors. Her persistence kept them open for others. What makes Mindy Kaling's story extraordinary isn't just her success, it's her mindset. She didn't wait for permission. She didn't ask to fit in. She built her own table and invited others to sit with her. She proved that intelligence, humor, and heart are the most powerful tools a woman can have in a world that often underestimates her. Today, Mindy is more than a writer, actor, or producer. She's a cultural architect, shaping the way stories are told and who gets to tell them. Her legacy isn't just in her shows, but in the people she's inspired to dream beyond what they've been told is possible, because Mindy Kaling's real genius isn't just making people laugh, it's teaching them to believe that they, too, can rewrite the story of their lives. When Mindy Kaling walked onto the set of The Office for the first time, she wasn't just walking into a job, she was stepping into destiny. Surrounded by comedy legends like Steve Carell, Rainn Wilson, and John Krasinski, she might have seemed like the newcomer. But what no one saw was the fire inside her, a vision so fierce it would one day reshape what was possible for women of color in Hollywood. Her time on The Office wasn't just a career milestone. It was her creative boot camp. She learned every element of storytelling, how to structure a scene, how to time a punchline, and how to make the audience laugh while slipping in truth. Mindy wasn't just writing jokes. She was weaving emotion into every laugh, turning sitcoms into mirrors of human behavior. She didn't just want people to giggle, she wanted them to feel. But the real story began when she realized she was done playing small roles. Hollywood loved to typecast the funny friend, the quirky sidekick, the diverse token. But Mindy wasn't built to be a background character, she was the main story. So, instead of waiting for someone to offer her a starring role, she wrote herself one. With the same determination that had fueled her since childhood, she pitched the Mindy Project. And when she stood in that boardroom, she wasn't just a writer selling a show, she was a visionary selling a new way of thinking. She said, "I want to make a show about a confident woman who's messy, successful, romantic, smart, and happens to look like me." It wasn't just a pitch, it was a revolution. When the Mindy Project debuted, critics and audiences alike were stunned. Mindy was the first South Asian woman to create, produce, and star in her own primetime network comedy. She had done what no one before her dared to attempt, and she made it look effortless. But behind that effortless charm was endless work, long nights rewriting scripts, stressful meetings with executives, and the constant pressure of carrying representation on her shoulders. Yet she handled it all with humor, poise, and a quiet defiance that became her signature. Every episode of the Mindy Project was more than just entertainment. It was a cultural statement. It showed a woman who loved fashion, success, and romance, but also made mistakes, owned them, and kept going. Mindy's character wasn't perfect, and that's what made her revolutionary. She wasn't a stereotype, she was human. And in doing that, Mindy gave permission to millions of women worldwide to embrace their flaws and still see themselves as powerful. As the show gained recognition, Mindy's influence exploded beyond television. She became an author, penning best-selling books like Is Everyone Hanging Out Without Me? And Other Concerns and Why Not Me? Both of which blended humor with wisdom, inspiring readers to chase their dreams, even when the world tells them they're not enough. Her writing was sharp, witty, and deeply personal. She spoke to readers like an old friend, reminding them that ambition isn't arrogance, it's self-respect. But success never made Mindy complacent. She didn't rest on fame. She built from it. After the Mindy Project, she moved into film production, taking on projects that reflected her values, stories about real people, honest emotions, and complex women. Her movie Late Night, starring Emma Thompson and herself, was a powerful reflection of her own journey, a woman trying to prove her worth in a world dominated by men. The movie wasn't just funny, it was brave, calling out the biases of the industry while showing that change begins when one person decides to step up. And once again, Mindy didn't stop there. She co-created the Netflix hit Never Have I Ever, a coming-of-age story about an Indian-American teenager navigating grief, identity, and high school chaos. For the first time, young brown girls saw themselves in the main character, complex, emotional, and beautifully real. Mindy's ability to take pieces of her own experience and turn them into relatable art was her secret weapon. She wasn't chasing trends. She was shaping culture. Hollywood began to recognize her not just as a performer but as a powerhouse creator, a woman who could build empires out of imagination. Her influence expanded into every corner of entertainment. She produced The Sex Lives of College Girls, another hit that tackled themes of friendship, ambition, and self-discovery with humor and honesty. Each project reflected her evolution, from the eager writer in the office to the executive producer who now greenlit stories others once said wouldn't sell. Behind all the success, though, Mindy's journey was never without struggle. The pressure of being the first often meant being alone at the top. She faced criticism not only for her work but for daring to be visible. Every move she made was scrutinized, every creative choice debated. But she once said, "If you're not being criticized, you're probably not doing anything new." And she lived by that truth, turning obstacles into opportunities for growth. What made Mindy unstoppable wasn't just talent, it was mindset. She understood that dreams don't work unless you do. She was meticulous, detail-oriented, and fearless in her pursuit of excellence. When others saw barriers, she saw blueprints. When others said no, she heard not yet. And perhaps most importantly, she never let success harden her. She remained kind, curious, and always hungry to learn more. Over the years, Mindy became more than just a Hollywood figure. She became a symbol of change. A reminder that representation isn't a trend, it's a revolution. She made space not only for herself but for countless others who came after her, women, writers, comedians, and dreamers who now saw that there was a place for them to. And through it all, Mindy's greatest power was her authenticity. She never tried to be what the industry expected. She wore bright colors when others wore black. She laughed loudly when others whispered. She spoke her truth even when it made people uncomfortable. And in a world that often values conformity, she made individuality her crown. By the time she entered her 40s, Mindy Kaling wasn't just a creator, she was a movement. She had proven that brilliance knows no color, that storytelling has no limits, and that humor, when used with heart, can change the world. Her name had become synonymous with vision, courage, and brilliance, a beacon for anyone who has ever been underestimated. Because in the end, Mindy Kaling's story isn't just about fame, it's about freedom. The freedom to be who you are, to tell your story in your voice, and to succeed without apology. She didn't wait for permission to belong, she created belonging. And in doing so, she didn't just find success. She found significance.